Hello there, people of Earth, and welcome back to Graham Sports Talk. After 2 serious videos, I finally get to do something a little bit more light-hearted and fun. Yes! Here's my list for the top 10 male tennis players of all time. Number 10, Roy Emerson. As part of the golden generation of Australian tennis, Roy Emerson was one of the standouts, winning 12 Grand Slam titles in his career. At the time of his retirement, that was a record. Although that number may be a little bit inflated due to the fact that some guys were banned from the Grand Slams for turning pro, and we will get to them, you don't win 12 Grand Slam titles by being a bum. Living up to the persona of the humble farm boy from rural Queensland, Emerson didn't even know he held the record until much later after his retirement. Perhaps due to his upbringing on the farm, he was never one to shy away from vigorous training. Fitness was a hallmark of his game. Primarily, he was a serve and volley player, but he was adaptable to all surfaces and ended up completing the career Grand Slam at Wimbledon in 1964. Number 9, Andre Agassi. A showman both on and off the court, Andre Agassi is the reason I started watching tennis. The man had more flair than Ric Flair and was more electrifying than The Rock. He turned professional at age 16 in 1986. It took him until the 1992 Wimbledon Championships to win his first major title. By the end of his career, the man had 8. The peak being the 1999 French Open title, which completed his career Grand Slam. The first man to do so since Roy Emerson in 1964. He had the talent to win so many more majors, but for some reason he just didn't. Why is there a picture of Pete Sampras? Just get that off here, please, thank you. Sorry about that. As I was saying, he had the talent to win so many more majors, but for some reason, why is there still a picture of Pete Sampras? Just get that away. Let's just move on. With Agassi, you had the audacious shot making, the hair, the going bald, the commercials, the losing his damn mind for a few years and dropping to 141 in the world, to rising like a phoenix back to the #1 world ranking. Andre Agassi is far more than just a tennis player. He's a pop culture icon who made tennis cool. Number 8, Ken Rosewall. Nicknamed Muscles because of a slight frame, Ken Rosewall went on to have an amazing and long career. How long, you ask? Well, he competed in his first tournament at age 15 in 1950. He retired in 1980. That's 30 years long. He won a lot in that time, eventually ending up with 8 Grand Slam singles titles. While that may pale in comparison to others on this list, it must be taken into account that he was banned for 10 years from playing in Grand Slam tournaments due to the fact that he turned professional. Before the ban, he had won 4, and after the ban was lifted, he came back to win another 4. Known for having perhaps the best backhand in the history of tennis, Father Time has taken a little bit of the shine off his achievements, but not enough to stop him appearing on this list. Number 7, Jimmy Connors. Maverick, feisty, longevity, winner. Jimmy Connors was all of these things and more. He compiled a total of 109 tournament wins on the men's tour, a record that still stands to this day. Among those 109 tournament wins are 8 Grand Slam singles titles. Surely that number would have been higher if he had been allowed to play the French Open more in his peak years, and if he could have been bothered to travel to Australia more than twice. An absolute giant of the game, Jimmy Connors' style of play, the power baseline, would prove very influential and can still be seen in most modern players today. He was a perfect 20-0 in slams in 1974, having been banned from the French Open. But for me, his greatest achievement at the slams was reaching the semi-final of the US Open as a 39-year-old in 1991. He won his last tour title in Israel in 1989, 17 years after his first in 1972. Number 6. Novak Djokovic. It's difficult to rank players who are currently playing on lists like these, but there can be no question that Novak Djokovic belongs on it. Having 12 Grand Slams, including a career Grand Slam, will do that. And he did so playing in arguably the greatest era of men's tennis of all time. The consummate baseliner, Novak's game translates well to all surfaces. He moves around better than anyone I have ever seen play the game, and his defensive ability and powers of recovery are second to none. Known as Joker for his humorous impersonations of fellow tennis players on court, his laid-back personality belies a fierce competitor. At the time of recording, he has a winning record against all his contemporaries, and he is the most likely to move up this list, given that he is the youngest on it. Number 5. Pete Sampras. When I first started watching tennis, Pete Sampras was the dominant player. In a glittering career, Pete Sampras won 14 major titles, including 7 at Wimbledon, both of which were a record at the time of his retirement. Perhaps the greatest serve and volley player in the history of tennis, Pistol Pete is, in my opinion, the greatest server of a tennis ball ever. He managed to save his greatest achievement for last. At the 2002 US Open, an aging Pete Sampras was given no chance of winning, having been described as a step and a half slower. However, he went on a miracle run and eventually faced old foe Andre Agassi in the final. Sampras won that match in what turned out to be his last professional match and promptly retired. Never one to show that much emotion on court, which turned some people off, including myself. Pete Sampras had ice in his veins and was ruthlessly efficient, to the point where no one can ignore his greatness. Number 4. Bjorn Borg. By age 25, Bjorn Borg had 11 majors to his name. By age 26, he was effectively done with tennis. Stoic and enigmatic, Borg's career is a case of what might have been. How many more Grand Slams could he have won if he had not retired so abruptly in his prime? We may never know, but what is undeniable is his greatness. Like Jimmy Connors before him, Borg was another who seemed like he couldn't be bothered to travel to Australia, in all likelihood leaving quite a few majors on the table there. I wonder why these guys didn't seem to want to travel to Australia. Oh wait, I know, it's because it's full of Australians. Borg started out as a baseliner, which helped him to win 6 French Open crowns. However, it hampered him on the faster grass surface at Wimbledon. Determined to change that, Borg trained vigorously on serve and volley tactics, which subsequently led to 5 consecutive Wimbledon crowns. Memorable for his flowing blonde locks and trademark bandana, Bjorn Borg may have shone only briefly, but he shone bright enough to be remembered amongst the all-time greats. Number 3. Rafael Nadal. Now we come to the king of clay. In fact, for this segment, Mr. Editor Man, see the background? I only want Roland Garros there. Not all 4, just Roland Garros. Can you do that for me? Thanks. Rafael Nadal put the crown of the king of clay on his head as a 19-year-old in 2005 by winning the French Open. 10 titles at Roland Garros later, and no one's been able to pry that crown off his head yet. He is much more than just a clay courter though, having won 2 apiece at each of the other majors, completing his career Grand Slam in 2010. Like Novak Djokovic before him, his story is far from done. However, he has battled with many injuries in the past. His style of play, brutal ground strokes from the baseline, and a never say die attitude to chase down even seemingly lost causes has taken a toll on his body. But that hasn't stopped him from winning this year's US and French Opens, his 15th and 16th Grand Slam title respectively. These numbers could have been significantly higher if it wasn't for the era he played in. However, the fact that he's got to 16 majors in this era is a testament to his greatness. Number 2, Roger Federer. Currently, he owns the record for most Grand Slam singles titles at 19. Currently, he owns the record for most wins at Wimbledon at 8. He is the owner of a career Grand Slam, but none of that is the reason why he is my favorite player of all time. Roger Federer is an absolute artist on the tennis court, moving around with the grace of a ballet dancer and hitting winners from almost impossible angles. He is an absolute joy to watch play this game. In fact, you know what? Hold on. Do me a favor. Pause this video. Go YouTube Impossible Roger Federer shots. I'll wait. So did you check out the new Thor movie? It was fantastic, wasn't it? Oh great, you guys are back. Let's move on. At 19, he beat Pete Sampras at Wimbledon, and great things were expected of him, and hell did he deliver. 2 years later, he won his first Grand Slam title at Wimbledon in 2003, and the rest is history. Like Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal before, his accomplishments occurred in perhaps the greatest era of men's tennis of all time. Still going strong at the age of 36, this year he won the Aussie Open and Wimbledon. And being my favorite player, I would love to put him at number 1 on this list. But I just can't because of one man. But before we get to number 1, I have to list off a few quote-unquote honorable mentions. But I'm not going to call them honorable mentions. I'm going to call these guys people I lost sleep over trying to fit on this list. I mean, look at my eyes. I'm tired. I could not sleep because I needed to fit these guys on the list, but I just couldn't find a place for them. If you guys happen to see this video, please forgive me. And I'm just going to rattle the names off. Becker, Willander, Edberg, Lendl, Budge, and McEnroe. Number 1, Rod Laver. Another Australian. That makes 3 on the list. And number 1 to boot. Oh my god, they're gonna deport my ass from South Africa. I'm gonna have to go live with the Australians. I'm gonna have to eat shrimp on the barbie. I mean, that sounds delicious. But goddammit, the only people I'm gonna be able to talk to are the Australians. Ugh! Jokes aside, Rod Laver is the greatest tennis player of all time. He owns 11 Grand Slam titles as well as 181 titles as an amateur and as a pro. More significantly, the holy grail of tennis, a calendar year Grand Slam, meaning winning every single major tournament in a given year, has only been done 3 times in the history of the game. 2 of those times were by Rod Laver. First as an amateur in 1962 and then again as a professional in 1969. In between those years, after he turned professional, he was banned from the Grand Slams, meaning he missed out on 21 Grand Slam tournaments. How many more could he have won? Maybe the most technically complete player of all time, Laver was a serve and volley player with dangerous ground strokes. He was short but powerful with a great serve. His rivalries with Roy Emerson and Ken Rosewall were legendary. In 1970, he was awarded an MBE by the Queen. They named the main court at the Australian Open after him. Seriously, how has this man not been knighted yet? We should be calling him Sir Rod Laver. But for now, I will just call him the greatest men's tennis player of all time. And that was my list for the greatest men's tennis players of all time. But what do you guys think? Is your list the same? Let me know in the comments down below. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will see you next time on Graham Sports Talk. Cheers for now.